The years leading up to and during menopause are a rite of passage. The wise woman inside of us is calling to slow down, to take stock, to speak our truth, to burn away all that no longer serves us, ready for our next cycle of life. The good news is, with the support, community, connection, and most of all, sharing our stories and being truly seen and heard, we will travel through this powerful, sometimes painful, heroine's journey and out the other side. Welcome to the Menopause Podcast, real and raw stories of midlife and mental health. I'm your host, Kylie Patchett, menopause self-care coach and storyteller, and I am so glad you found us. Let's get on with the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. Today, I am talking to the beautiful Libby Stevenson all the way in England. How are you, Libby?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me onto your podcast.
So cool. I just love these conversations all over the world. And I was watching one of your reels the other day and I was like, she does not sound English, but her time zone when we're booking is English. So originally you're from the US?
Yes, I'm originally from New York and
Yes.
I've lived in the UK now over 30 years. My husband was transferred to the UK for a job and we never left because we loved it.
There you go.
We had 4 children and my accent is still a US accent because I moved here when I was 30. You don't lose your accent when you're 30.
No. Although I have to say, I'm one of those people and I think it must appear that I'm putting it on, but when I speak to someone that has an accent, I start talking in the same kind of accent, not so much with the US, but I notice with my friends from New Zealand who have quite thick New Zealand accents, I'll start saying words like that. And I'm like, I'm not mocking you and I'm not doing this deliberately. It's just something weird that happens. Anyway, especially when I go to New Zealand for a couple of weeks and then come back and I'm like talking, my kids will be like, Mom, you're not a Kiwi. Anyway.
Well, it's interesting. Now I hear a New York accent and I think it's quite harsh. I think my accent has gotten a lot softer from living in the UK, but I find it so harsh and I don't pick that up.
You know what? I could literally, if I just close my eyes and listen to you speak, and I understand what you're saying, your accent is not as strong, but I spent this very precious month in New York by myself when I did an internship one summer. And it was just after my dad died and my kids were little, but my kids were over in Portland, Oregon with my husband. And we always say homeschooling in inverted commas, which meant they just skied every day. And I was over on the other coast, but I just have such fond memories of, the grief was overwhelming. And it was also the first time in 6 years that I hadn't had a dad to take care of or kids to take care of. And so the Big Apple, what better place to be by yourself and to just squeeze the juice out of life. There's so much to see and do and experience. And I remember this sense
it's sensory overload.
But it was so good. And it was also so good to be there by myself because when the grief did get overwhelming, I just let it. I remember, I don't think I've told this story on the podcast, and apologies if I have, listeners, but I remember one day I'd planned to meet up with, Siri, like the computer voice Siri. The original Siri was an Australian woman called Karen, and I connected with her because I knew I was going to New York and I was connected to her somehow on Facebook. Anyway, I reached out to her and said, I'm going to be in New York. I'd love to catch up. So we had this yoga. So actually, perfect story for your. We had this yoga date, and then it turned into brunch at her place. And then I went on and went and saw a matinee show because I just thought, well, why the hell? You're in the Big Apple. Why?
Yeah.
And then I found myself on one of those red double-decker buses, but I still had my yoga mat. It was pouring down rain. I'm crying because I'm missing my dad. I've got a big smile on my face. There's so many emotions, but I've got my yoga mat over my head. And I just remember feeling so many things. That city is amazing. Are you from New York City or New York State?
Brooklyn. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. And I lived in New York City when I was working in New York City. And I love New York City, but having lived in London, I think London is a better city in terms of raising children. So
Oh,
New
yeah,
York is
definitely.
great when you're single or you don't
Yep.
have children, you're trying to make your way in the world because
Mm-hmm.
it's all there. But London offers, a lot for the parent and a
Yes.
lot for the child.
Yeah,
There's a bit
yeah.
of both. And it was great to raise children in London. And I'm glad I did. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. That is actually the perfect segue to where I wanted to start because one of the things that you write about on your website is the experience of having your first baby and navigating pregnancy when you had just moved from the States to the
Yes.
UK. You didn't have
Yeah.
family support around.
No.
Can you talk to us
Yeah.
about that
Yeah.
experience? And because there's so many
Yeah.
parallels to the doing perimenopause by yourself, like these big transitions
Yes.
as women, they're not
They
meant to be
are.
navigated by ourselves, are they?
No, they're not. So my husband had been transferred to London.
Mm.
So we moved to London. And at the time, we had both worked for the same company in New York.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he was going to be heading up the office in London, and they wouldn't let a wife. It was a small office. Their ethos was not to let a wife work for her husband. So
Yeah.
they said to me in New York, when he's transferred back, we'll give you your job back.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I could have come to London and started a new job and
Mm-hmm.
found a new job, but I thought, no, let's start a family. I was, you know, 30 at the time, so
Yeah,
it was
yeah, yeah.
time to start a
Yeah.
family, and that's what we did. So we started a family, but I didn't have family around me. I didn't have any friends. I had just moved
Mm-mm.
from the UK, and I found myself in London, newly arrived, pregnant. And at the
Wow.
time, 30 years ago, we were told as women, don't exercise. Exercise is bad in pregnancy. You can walk and you can swim. And I thought, when I did my yoga teacher training,
Yeah.
I thought a lot about who I wanted to teach.
Yes.
And it brought me back to that time when I was pregnant and I had new babies. And I thought, there was nothing for us women back then.
Mm-mm.
There was no way to exercise. There was no way to meet other women who were pregnant. Even
Mm.
if you're in the country where you were raised and born, how do you meet other women who are pregnant? Because a lot of the times women go through their first pregnancy with their friends not being pregnant, and
Yes.
there's this whole, I'm pregnant, but they're not, and they don't understand that I have a new baby and I can't just
Mm-hmm.
get up and go to the local pub when they want
Yep,
to.
exactly.
So,
Or stay out until 3.
so how do you find that support group, that community that's like you?
Yeah, yeah.
So that was my experience about not having any way to meet people when I had just first arrived in
Yeah,
London.
yeah, yeah.
And it was, when it's your first child too, it's like, you don't know what's right and what's wrong. What is normal? This baby's constantly crying.
Yep.
Is that normal? It is actually,
Yeah,
but you don't know. Are they sick? Are they going to die? So to have had some kind of support network, which I didn't have,
yeah.
would have been really helpful. So I navigated pregnancy
Mm.
and postnatal all on my own. And like you said, they're transformative. You're going from being a woman who has a life,
Yes.
whatever that is, whether you're working or not working or what have
Yeah.
you, to now having this baby that is really reliant on you. And you have to
Yep.
think twice before you do anything, because what
Mm-hmm.
about baby?
Yeah, exactly.
So it really changes your life, whether you
Mm.
like it or not. Becoming a mother is a very transformative process. And
Mm-hmm.
to have, someone to help you and guide you is really helpful, or a
Yeah.
community of other women going through the same thing. So when I teach pregnancy and postnatal,
Yeah.
I allow a time in the class for the women to just talk to each other. I'm not sleeping. This baby is crying all the time.
Oh, so
And
good.
they learn the most from each other, not from me.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm there to
Absolutely.
do the yoga with them. And
Mm-hmm.
eventually we get to the yoga. But the actual beauty of these yoga classes, be it pregnancy, postnatal, or menopause, is to allow the women to share their story, because that's where we learn the most.
Yes.
And that is really cathartic to hear, oh, it's not just me.
It's not just me. It's not just
Yeah,
me. Yeah, exactly.
it's not just me. I'm not alone. Or even if I'm not experiencing that, to say, oh, that could happen. I know what to do should that happen,
Yeah, exactly. I think when I think about that transition from without child to with child,
Oh, gosh.
or even earlier than that, if we think about the transition of puberty and then we think about the perimenopausal transition, we really are stepping across a threshold where one version of ourselves ceases to be and we change to something else. And I feel like the more, exactly what you're saying, the more we're sharing stories, the more we've got spaces where we can build community and connection, the more that we understand we're not alone, we can be seen and be heard, but that we've got power. It's not like I was interviewing a GP earlier today, general practitioner. I'm not sure if that's the same, but normal doctor, family doctor. And she was saying, one of the biggest things is that to know that it's okay to question your doctor. But a lot of women, if they're not in spaces like you're talking about,
correct,
they're not hearing other people saying how transformative trying something has been, or what are the options in terms of how to better support yourself, or what lifestyle factors to kind of, pull the lever of.
Correct.
And that was a big thing that she was saying. And the word that keeps coming back to me, and even as you're speaking, is that empowered and connected. That, having those spaces.
It makes such a difference. And it would have made a big difference to me. And that's why now, through my own experience, getting back to your original question, I use my own experience to help other women. And the idea is to inform them. So when they come to my classes, we talk about the physical symptoms, because pregnancy, postnatal, and menopause are very similar, although they're different.
Yes.
But all three of them involve physical symptoms.
Yes.
And so I use yoga to help them with that. But then there's the emotional aspect, there's the mental, emotional, and spiritual aspect of it. And the yoga really helps with that one, because, the emotional is just processing feelings.
Yes.
And sometimes you can't express feelings in words.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's too many feelings at once, and you can't unravel them, or you just don't have the words to express them. So movement, breathing, meditation, all those things can help to unravel it all. And there's a lot happening in all three of those stages, be it pregnancy, postnatal, or menopause. It's not just pregnancy, it's not just the menopause. There's life happening at the same time. And it's different, and there's different things at different stages of life. So in menopause, you've got the aging parents, the empty nest, you've got women coming to an age where they're reassessing career goals or relationships, empty nest. Now you've got kids who have left the home, and you're sitting across from a partner you haven't really connected with over the years because it's only been through children. Now the children are gone. How do you connect?
Yeah. Who are you?
Exactly. So it's all of this happening at once, and it can be overwhelming, and yoga can help with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was actually saying to someone today that I feel most myself in two different places. On the back of a motorbike, which sounds a bit bizarre, but I absolutely love being on the back of a bike and the sense of freedom. And the second place is on my yoga mat, because every time I'm on my mat, I am so much more connected to how I'm feeling, and that it's like almost like the vision for the outside world closes and I turn inside, and it's like,
well, that's interesting. You should say your yoga mat. To me, it's through the breath, because I can do the breathing anywhere, even on the London
That's
Tube.
true. Yeah.
And that is my connection back to, okay, I need a moment here. Where do I get the moment? And I can find that moment anywhere just by focusing on breathing. So it's interesting, different people, but you know what? That's the beauty of yoga. Through yoga, you can find where you can find yourself. Yeah, and people think, what does that mean? That connection to your true self, what does that mean? Well, it just means connecting back to whatever you hold near and dear, like your ethos, your values. And a lot of that gets lost when we go through pregnancy, when we go through when we have children, when we go through menopause, we lose that person because we're focused on other people over here. Yeah. And that person is still there, but there's no time for her. There's no time for her. So the beauty of menopause is actually the beauty of the empty nest, is that now, you can focus on yourself, because now they can take care of themselves, those children, if you have children. And now you can go back. You can go back and, think about those passions that you had and those interests. Yes. And go back to them, because now you have more time to do so, because one element of your life, the children,
is
are
not
moving on.
Yes. I'm kind of in the middle of that. Like, one of my daughters has moved out, one's at home, but very self-sufficient. So it's like the door is opening and I can see this whole new world out there. It's very exciting.
And you know what? That's what led me to doing the yoga teacher training, was the fact that I was a stay-at-home mom. Because like I said, my husband was transferred to London, so we had children, but you don't know if you like being a stay-at-home mother until you actually do it. And I thought,
absolutely.
if I don't like it, when we go back to the US, I've got a job. I can just give this up. Well, he did get transferred back, and I loved being a stay-at-home mother, and I just continued with that. Long story short, we got transferred back to London. Which was great.
Oh, that's exciting. So what was your own experience through menopause at that stage?
Okay.
Did you still have kids around then?
I did. And you know what was interesting, because I had children in my teens, but I didn't know anything about menopause. I just knew the word, and I thought it meant one day your periods will stop. That's it. And I thought, and then that's it. But I had no clue that there was this whole hormonal change. I never heard the word perimenopause or postmenopause.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember thinking that I wasn't feeling not quite myself. So I was feeling very tired.
Yes.
And I thought, because I have a degree in biology, basically, I thought, oh, it must be my thyroid.
Yes.
And I might need something for my, because it's the same symptoms, feeling tired and not sleeping. And so I did go to my doctor, and he said, oh, well, because of your age, it's probably the menopause. And so he took these blood tests to check for thyroid, but the thyroid was fine. So he said, it could be your menopause. He said, if you want something, I can subscribe something, but if you can live with it, I recommend you live with it. So I went home and I thought about that. And my symptoms were not severe enough for me to look for HRT or medication or anything like that. I was lucky in that I just felt kind of tired. You just take some iron supplements, or you eat better, or there's more natural ways to deal with that. I don't, and I was never one to take medication anyway. So I thought, well, I'll just live with it. And I think my symptoms were mild. The only thing I can attribute it to is yoga. And I've always had a healthy lifestyle. I never smoked. I never really drank much. I always ate healthy. I always cooked my own meals. So I have to think it's a combination of all these things, but predominantly, I have to say it was the yoga. That's the only thing I can think of that why were my symptoms so mild? And I can, I hear lots of women suffer terribly. And, and I think it's probably a combination of everything, not to mention that, I think through the yoga, I always had a way of processing feelings, because when feelings get stuck, we now know that they come out of the body through physical symptoms, right?
Yes, indeed.
And as you're going through the menopause, it's exacerbated.
It's like let's turn that up to 1,000.
And I had a way of releasing that.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is what fascinates me about every individual woman's experience, because I used to think, so kind of similarly, like I've always had a healthy lifestyle, I'm not a big drinker. I have smoked, but not for very long, and not, a lot at all. One of those people that had a drink and a cigarette when they were younger type of person. But I would have to say, for my personal experience, and I do think that this plays a big part. Well, first of all, genetics. So knowing what your mother's menopause was like, and what, whether you've had a fairly healthy menstrual cycle can be an indicator maybe that there might be a little bit more rocky road. For me, certainly past like trauma, and also periods of depression. And this is not me personally, but the PMDD end of things. So severe PMT or premenstrual, I can never say this word, dysmorphic disorder. I'm just about to have a naturopath on to talk about that. Can kind of be little indicators of like you may not necessarily sail through. But there's not a direct correlation. Well, in my anecdotal evidence from yoga classes that I teach, or breathwork classes that I teach, like there's women that'll be like, and this is me, like I've never been on medication, not like been healthy as a horse. But I think the key thing for me is the mental health. Whereas someone will go, I didn't think I'd have any symptoms because my mum didn't, and I'm healthy. but they're the person that's like struggling the most. And it's just like, I don't know whether there's a pattern here. I don't know. And that's just my personal theory, but
it's interesting.
Yeah. I also have friends on the flip side that are really heavy drinkers, that aren't healthy, that have very high stress levels, and they've had no symptoms. And I'm like,
yeah,
I feel ripped off.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh,
it's interesting. You talk about, your periods, and mine were always like clockwork. I never had any pain.
Yeah.
And I guess it's kind of like an extension. My menopause was an extension of that. But, having said that, I wish I had known more about it.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you could get symptoms. So my tiredness, my fatigue was clearly a symptom of that.
Yes.
Did I have rage with my kids? Of course I did. But then was it menopause, or was it just my kids were being annoying? Sometimes we can't really differentiate what is happening.
Yeah.
But it would have been nice to know, because maybe I could have apologized to my kids after screaming at them, saying my hormones.
Yeah. These are the conversations
that I'm little thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm having those conversations with my girls where, I've even been saying like, I am feeling really irritable. Like I wrote a post a little while ago called Itchy Bitchy Brave, which is where like every single thing felt like it was annoying me. Like the touch of things on my skin, the sound of something, like super, super, super hypersensitive to all stimuli. And I just said to my husband and my daughters, I'm like, you're just going to have to leave me to my own devices and stay away, because I can tell you that it doesn't matter whether you breathe near me or speak to me, I'm going to snap, and I think
it's interesting. Yeah.
When you can have those conversations, not only is it better for us because we feel more kind of forewarned and forearmed, but also people around us can know that it's not necessarily, it's not them. There's no problem with your relationship. It's that you are going through, physiological and emotional and mental changes that are causing changes in behavior that aren't because, they're irritating. It's just, I'm irritated.
Well, and it's interesting you should say that, because a lot of women, including me, think that menopause affects them, but it affects everyone around you, doesn't it? It doesn't just affect. And like you said, being able to forewarn them is an education for them. But also I find it's interesting you say you can tell when you're being oversensitive. I think that's the yoga. It brings you that awareness to body that I now have too. And there are certain days I can tell when I'm heightened awareness of things around me. I think that's the yoga that trains you to constantly focus on the body and what's happening in the body and where is it happening. And it's that constant training that then when you're off the mat and in situations, you can tell what's happening to my body here. It's sending me signals and I need to do something about it, either the breath, or I tell people to leave me alone, or and I think that's the yoga that allows that, awareness of self, so that you can help others too to deal with you.
Yeah. I think that what you were saying before about the breath too, it's that, I don't know, I always think about the breath being like the river of life. Like you take your first breath when you're born, you take your last breath when you die. It's with you at all times. It's a tool to bring you back to the present moment. You can literally, by slowing your breath, change your physiology. Like there's so many, there's so much power in the breath. And I think that it's reminding me that the gift of, the mind, body, breath connection that you learn, that you practice, that you're able to put into your life, it does, I find for me, it introduces more of a pause between the stimulus and the response.
Yes.
And, I put a quote up about that the other day, like that old Viktor Frankl quote about, between stimulus and response is our power to choose our response, basically. And that's where growth and freedom live. And I think there's been so many times where I have not been regularly practicing, where I've been resisting self-care, or I've fallen off the yoga bandwagon or whatever, or life's been too busy. And the stimulus and response are like 2 seconds
action
apart.
Reaction.
There's no I am like, I've reacted before I've even thought about reacting. Whereas when I am regularly practicing and coming back to the breath and the mat work, you're right. It gives you that heightened.
And that's And that's the beauty of yoga. It's not what happens on the mat. It's when you're off the mat that then you get that pause. When everything is exploding around you, you get the pause to step back and say, what is happening? What do I need to do? And it might be breathing technique. It might be leave the room. It might be yelling if it's warranted.
Yeah, absolutely.
But or you
standing
had a
your
moment.
ground.
Yeah. But it's that idea that you leave the situation not feeling terrible about what you just did.
Correct.
Oh, why did I say that? Why did I do that? You're thinking, no, that was right in the moment, and I'm glad I did that.
It's from choice, not reaction. I think that's the difference between those two. Let me ask you, when you have a group of women and they're doing this sharing back and forth in this safe community that you create, what are the things that people are sharing that you have those literal moments of seeing someone else go, that's me too? Like what do you reckon women that you have in those circles are most kind of surprised by, or the aha light bulb moments that they haven't connected? Hey, gorgeous. We interrupt this gold for a delicious invitation. If your whole body has been whispering more lately, more voice, more truth, more satisfaction, more clients of the soulmate variety, more cash, more you, then this invitation is for you. Potent, my sister mind is officially open. This is my high touch, holy fuck, I'm ready sister mind for rebels in good girl clothing who are done outsourcing their power and diluting their magic to fit into someone else's business formula. If you have been craving a space where your strategy, your voice, and your energy all get to be offered, honored, refined, and amplified, this is it. Inside of Potent, you'll get my eyes on your business every single week, copy mentoring, and that is for brand copy and content storytelling that turns your truth into client catnip, energetic recalibration that helps you unhook old learned limitation patterns, keeping you quiet, not being seen, not being heard, real-time, high-touch, one-on-one coaching that actually sees the bigness of your vision, and the kind of sisterhood that does not flinch when you show up in your full, messy, brilliant, phoenix rising from the ashes glory. This isn't surface level support. It's deep, potent, paradigm shifting work that changes who you are as a woman in business and a woman in life. We start in August. Early open access is open right now. For the month of June 2025, inside of this early access open doors period, you will receive juicy bonuses, extended payment plans, and access immediately to my entire library of storytelling gold. You'll find all the juicy details at kyliepatchett.com/potent. And we fill spaces, and there's only 10 of them, and more than likely only 5 by the time you listen to this, because by that time I will have offered them to the existing cohort, the beautiful original OG circle. We do actually take applications on a first come, first served basis. So come and apply, and let's get back to the magic of the episode.
The one thing that in all 3 groups, pregnancy, postnatal, menopause, that they complain about the most is sleep.
Yeah.
I'm not getting sleep. What can I do? So in pregnancy, people suggest these pillows, or I suggest ways of lying propped up.
Yes.
The idea is that they can't really roll on their side, and they worry about that. And, and then in postnatal, it's the baby keeps me awake. And what can I do about that? And that's a tricky one.
Yep.
Unless you get a night doula. I mean, it's a tricky one. You have to get up and look after the baby or have your mother come or whatever. But in menopause, I teach them breathing techniques. Well, I teach breathing techniques for all three.
Yes.
But I also teach, ways, positions to get into that help them. So be it pregnancy or postnatal or menopause, there are restorative poses that you can do on your bed.
Yep.
That release tension from the body and quiet the mind. And all you have to do is get into that pose. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to sleep soundly throughout the night.
No.
What it does is it gives you better sleep quality and it relaxes you.
Yeah.
So at least you're getting rest. And there's, and that's very helpful. If you're exhausted, to get those moments of rest where you can just, get into a position and know that this is good for me. And I'm going to my body will be better for it and my mind can quiet down. So I teach them all different kinds of techniques to help them with that. But that's the number one complaint of all women.
I think I share that. I think the most impactful symptoms for me have been sleep, which then when I don't sleep well is a slippery slope mental health wise. So sleep is like the access point for me. Once my sleep is sorted, then I'm fine. And I think what you are reminding me of is the studies around like CBT for the insomnia / night sweats / any of those sleep disruptors. And it's fascinating to me that CBT, it's one of the very clear evidence-backed, supports of improving sleep. And it takes me back to my sleep medicine days because we used to have people that would come and say, I am an insomniac. And what we would often see, and I think it's my suspicion and it's definitely been my personal experience, that what can happen is I wake up, then I'm making a story about what's going to happen when I'm tired and the fact that I'm never going to get to sleep again and how catastrophic that's going to be. And so that cycle of thinking breeds more of the behavior of the I'm not sleeping and catastrophizing. And I'm not, please don't anyone listening hear me say catastrophizing, thinking I'm diminishing. I've been there. I have been one of those people awake for 4 hours at night going, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to cope tomorrow, like that type of thing.
Yeah.
And I think when you're talking about restorative poses or teaching people CBT interrupters, it's that pattern interruption of the behavior that comes from that. Now I'm awake. Now it's like that awful,
Yeah. Well, there are times when even I don't, I'll wake up at 2 and I can't go back to sleep. But what I do is they say, oh, get out of bed.
Yeah.
But I don't. I actually stay there. I get into my restorative pose. I focus on the breathing. And it might take me 2-3 hours, but those things like focus on the breathing, that helps me with the thoughts. So the thoughts,
exactly.
It's a distraction away from the thoughts. And I don't focus on, I'm not sleeping. I won't be able to do this, that, and the other tomorrow. And then eventually my body rests and it does lead to sleep. And it might take a couple of hours, but I'm comfortable with that. Lots of people are not.
Yes.
So that's how I manage it.
I think it's the surrender part too. It's like, I'm noticing that I'm awake again in the middle of the night. Yes. And I'm noticing that this is a new thing that's occurred since I hit the ages of perimenopause.
Yeah.
I am looking forward to the days when it is not my normal to be awake in the middle of it. Like I kind of like, I play a game with myself about, let me use my brain power to imagine being asleep.
It's the distraction. It's distracting the mind from the thoughts that then spiral.
Exactly.
And yoga teaches you that, doesn't it? It basically says focus on the breath, which is what I do. But there's all kinds of techniques. Like you said, just replace those thoughts that are going to keep you awake with other thoughts.
Well,
I mean, visualization.
Ideally,
you're walking through a garden or something.
Yeah, exactly. I for ages and ages, it really worked for me to put on like a yoga nidra or something that, and particularly I really like using insight timer. Although I haven't been on insight timer for ages, I've just been doing silent meditation. But anyway, that's just by the by. But I was listening to their sleep stories that they've got, and there's like some gorgeous, like kind of imagine a beautiful, deep, very peaceful, calming voice talking to you about. There's one that was like, I'm walking through the fields of lavender, and I'm like, And then all of a sudden it's the next morning and I'm like, wow. But then I got to the stage where that wasn't working anymore. So then it's like, and I think that's the other thing with the menopause end of things. It's what's working right now and the surrender to the fact that it may not work tomorrow and it may not work next year. And, there's a whole other,
Well, having to adapt. Yeah, having to adapt and constantly changing. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think maybe that's what it teaches us, menopause, that we need to be constantly adapting.
Yes.
We can't just be stuck in our ways because it doesn't work anymore, does it?
Absolutely.
The way we ate in our 30s and 40s doesn't work anymore. The exercise doesn't work anymore. You have to change and adapt. And maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Imagine if we were able to do the same thing from, day zero.
How boring.
I think, I don't know. I'm thinking about my dad was 91 when he died. He was 55 when I was born. And even, the week that he had his stroke, so he was palliative for 8 weeks, but the week that he had his stroke, he was still walking. He used to walk a kilometre. So we had a very long driveway. So it was 100 metres from one end to the other. And so he would take little pebbles and he would count. So he'd leave a little pebble at one end and that would be one. And then he'd put a pebble at the other end. And so he would know how many laps and he'd do his 10 laps. And he was still doing that at 91. But I also have very clear memories of him. Like he was long-term army. And when I was probably, I want to say like 15, 16, he was buzzing around like he was a 20-year-old because I think he always, two things. He had a young mind, but he was also very good at just adapting. And he always used to say, like, having a kid at 55 keeps you young because you have to be, I guess.
Oh, yeah, you're chasing them. Yeah,
exactly. kept him on his toes.
I think that's a good point about mindset. Yeah. That, there's this misconception in the West that, as we get older, as women get older or midlife women, they're past it, they've lost it, whatever. And that's so not true. And, this idea that keeping the mind youthful, by learning new things, by, going back to hobbies we enjoyed and taking them up again.
Yeah.
And not just sitting in a rocking chair,
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
Actually, we have to stay moving and we have to keep active, not just in body, but also in mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's how I became a yoga teacher because I had, as we were saying at the beginning of this conversation, I had this whole empty nest and I had children that I was a stay-at-home mother. Now they're gone. And all this time, because my time was dedicated to them, they're no longer there. What do I do? Yeah. And I liked yoga and I could see the benefits. I could feel them, but I wanted to know more. And I thought, well, I have the time to do the yoga teacher training. So cool. So I did that, So
was that post-menopausally, mid-menopause? Like
it was menopause. It was perimenopause. My periods had stopped, but they were coming back periodically.
Yeah, right.
So that's when I did that. And I'm glad I did.
Sorry.
And I did it in my late 50s. I became a yoga teacher in my late 50s and started yoga in my early 50s. So anyone listening thinking, oh, but yoga's for young people and it's too late for me.
Totally isn't.
Not true.
No, it's not
true.
Not at all. And that's why I was actually asking whether it was post or during menopause or whatever, because there's a pattern of when I'm talking to people that are postmenopausal on the podcast, they quite often will start something big and new and purposeful right on the cusp of that menopause. And it's like you were saying before, like your dance card is full in those 20s and 30s with whatever it's full with, whether it's career or kids or whatever, traveling, whatever. And then all of a sudden we come to this kind of space and grace where it's like, oh, I've got a bit more time opening up here. Yeah. Who do I want to be? Like what interests me? What sparks joy in me? What do I want to, pull at the edges of to see where I end up? I think that's fascinating.
And I think there are other people out there who have hobbies, have any hobbies.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I could just, my hobby, let's explore that a bit further. I didn't have any. So it took me a while to figure out what do I want to do next with all this time. And that's how I ended up with yoga because it was the only thing. It was the only thing.
But what a fascinating, think about as a result of that decision, how many women you've been able to impact. And then,
I hope so.
Like in my head, like, I guess it's the ripple effect, but like my scientist head loves it's that exponential curve thing, isn't it? It's like you're helping all of these individual women and groups of women, but then it's actually every single other person that they come into contact with. So their babies, their partners, their kids, their like, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like that's a magical thing to think about.
And I think I chose yoga because it was a woman teaching the class who was like me. So she was in her mid 40s. And she kind of looked like me body wise. So she wasn't a sticking sect. And the women in her class, you know, it's how they say you attract your tribe. We were all the same age. We all kind of looked alike. And that was my incentive, because I think had it been a 20-year-old girl who could do the splits and headstands, I would have not kept going. And I got lucky in that I found someone like me. And that's key, isn't it? To find, and there's lots more of us in this field talking about the menopause, doing different things. So you can find, you know, you can align yourself with someone who has the same interests as you.
It resonates.
This stage of life.
Absolutely. I am so relating to what I actually, I've got someone inside of a program that I've got running at the moment, and I always ask the ladies, because it's not yoga specifically, it's mind, body, and breath tools. And I was saying to them, like, have you had any experience with yoga, just to sort of feel out what sort of level? And she said, no. And she's quite a forthright speaker. She's like, no, the only experience I've had is going to classes where there's like 20-year-old stick insects. And I just thought, I can't put my leg up there. And so it made yoga completely inaccessible. And I think that is the beauty of how many more different bodies, different ages, different experiences, different sort of lenses of life are teaching now, because it is making something that is such a powerful way of life.
And it's interesting because when I first started on Instagram, when I started doing yoga, I couldn't do a lot of stuff. I mean, I've become more flexible. I still can't do the splits or headstands, but never mind. And when I started on Instagram, it was all about, you know, because I taught pregnant women and we have to adapt it to them. So I would do that yoga. Lots of women would say, oh, I didn't realize I could do it that way. You know, I thought I had to cross my leg over. I didn't realize I didn't have to cross my leg over, whatever. And it's you know, on social media, it's contortion because it makes a pretty picture. But a lot of what you see is either not yoga, or some people are just naturally bendy or double jointed, and they can do things that I can't. And I teach yoga, you know, and I teach it to people to make, you know, I want them to feel better about themselves. So I adapt it to their body. And there's loads of ways to adapt it.
Yeah, I just did specific yoga for the stages of menopause training with the beautiful Neve, who we are both connected to. And one of the confronting things that I was faced with in that training was the fact that I am very hyperflexible. And although I have always been mindful of that, I have realized actually two things. Number one, I have done a lot of damage to myself by going past the range of motion that a normal joint should be able to. And I've actually got a genetic collagen disorder thing that makes that a bit more tricky. So all of those deep binds and all of the crazy poses I used to do as a 20-year-old and a 30-year-old, where my MO was push as hard as you can and like hold it and like, you know, it was so ego-based practice. That was the first confronting thing. But the second one was that I haven't been mindful enough to say to students, my body is naturally more flexible than the average body. So please don't, like I always talk about, you know, this is not a competition. We're not aiming for the floor. There's nothing special down there. Like, you know, we're all in whatever space and amount of movement and flexibility that we are in this moment. But I feel like I have possibly been part of someone else's story about, well, I can't do that, so I can't do yoga, because I haven't been as mindful as what I could. And I am always very, very clear now about framing that up, because I think the whole purpose, particularly when we're in midlife, it's all we want for people is to be more connected to themselves.
Correct.
not comparing, never comparing, never ever comparing, being in yourself, listening to your needs, honoring your needs.
Yeah. And I'll bet because you're super stretchy, I'll bet you looked good in those poses, so in a class, people were probably looking at you thinking, wow,
and it felt good, but it felt good at the time. What I'm now realizing is I've done deep and lasting damage to my my body. And it's a funny thing. Anyway, it doesn't matter for this conversation, but basically people that have the disorder that I have don't have the pain signals at the end of range of motion. So there is no signal for me to stop. And because my ligaments are so much more lax than the average ligament, it means that I can literally hang off joints, and it's not good. It is not good. So now similar to what you were saying with the, doing more pregnancy style, is I'm like my specialist, his instruction is grandma yoga only. That's what my skeleton needs to do. And I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah. What that's forced me to do is not be attached to how far I get, but to just be in the pose. And oh my God, the transformation to my own practice and my own awareness of myself emotionally and mentally has just been huge. So I'm like, up until now, I was getting that physical practice, but I really wasn't feeling as much of everything else that you can get from yoga. So it's been a gift, confronting, but a gift.
Well, I have to say, one of the things about COVID was that it brought a lot of women to yoga because they could now keep their video off.
Yes.
A lot of women are, they go to a yoga class and they see bendy people and thin people and what have you, and young people, and they think, oh, this is not the class for me. But thanks to COVID, from the comfort of everyone's home, they could do yoga. So there was a positive to COVID that, a lot of people, not just women, came to yoga to experiment.
Absolutely.
Got the benefits of it and were able to do it, because even though they don't think they have a yoga body or they can't do yoga, now they find that actually they can. And it was all because it was from the comfort of their home with the video off. So, I thought that was one of the benefits of COVID, bringing people to yoga who were not confident enough to go in person to a yoga class.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There was definitely periods of my life where I was heavier, where I was like, there's no way I'm going to a yoga class. And that's when my practice was interrupted, because my love of yoga as a practice was interrupted by my own internal, like, I can't do that. My belly's getting in the way. And I used to have enormous boobs, which meant that any forward folding was almost impossible because I'd be choking on myself. So it's, I really, really love that it is starting to be much more normal for all different body shapes to be in classes, because, and I'm certainly, like, I'm not the typical yoga teacher. Like, I am not anywhere near as slender as I used to be. And that is actually really great for students, because they are seeing that body diversity. I think that's a really good thing.
And having to adapt the pose to yourself means that now you can teach it, because you understand it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, I really can't get my leg there when my thighs are wider than they have been. Yeah,
that's right.
I'm interested. What, have you got daughters? Any of your kids girls?
I have 2 boys and 2 girls.
Perfect. Yeah. Double pigeon pair.
And I taught. Yeah. And I talk to all of them about the menopause. And I think they're sick of it, but especially my daughters, because, now there's all this research on how you eat when you're young and the impact it has on your bones.
Yes.
As you go through the menopause and all this other stuff. So I'm always talking to them about menopause and notice the symptoms, what they need to do now so that they can have a good menopause and a good quality of life as we age, and I think those two go together. That's the other thing that people are starting to talk about, that, you want to be healthy in menopause, but it goes beyond that, remember, and
exactly. And I think, keeping, like, going back to that example of my dad, like, to be aging healthily, so that your lifespan and your health span are the same. Like, he had a stroke 8 weeks before he died, and that was it. But up until then, he was healthy as a horse. And so that, to me, and I have naively expected that my brilliant Irish genes, where all of his siblings got to, no, that's not true. There was 9 of them, 2 died early, but the rest got to their 90s. So I'm like, I am home and hosed on the genetics. And I'm like, no, you're not, because you don't have the same lifestyle. So don't be assuming anything. Like, you've still got to pay attention to how you're treating yourself. Yeah.
It's interesting you say lifestyle, because in my family, there is heart disease. But is it heart disease or was it their lifestyle?
Yeah.
I have no idea, because I didn't know them well enough to ask them or to, so there's this thing where I'm thinking, I know I need to look after my heart. I'm not on HRT, so I really need to pay attention to that. But I'm thinking, was it their lifestyle or was it really their heart? Is it a genetic thing? So I don't know. And I'm playing both cards at the moment. But it's an interesting one. How we are health-wise as we age. Is it due to lifestyle? Is it due to genetics? Is it a combination of things? Is it, maybe it's a little bit of everything, and we need to.
I think we do know. I think it's kind of similar to the conversation with, is it perimenopause or is it stress or is it something else? Like, they're so intertwined that can we even really pull them apart? Because there's so much overlap. And it's kind of like, would you ever be able to answer, is that lifestyle and habits versus straight genetics or a combination of the two? What we do know in genetics is, even if you have particular genes, lifestyle factors can influence whether they're expressed or not. That's 100%, evidence-based. And so I keep on coming back to, what can I control? I can't control my genes. They're a done deal. But what I can control is how well I'm taking care of myself. And particularly, I'm realizing, particularly around mental health and stress reduction and management, that I have relied for a lot of my life on the fact that I've always been an Energizer bunny and can always push through. And whilst that appears to be a good thing, it actually isn't. And now I'm being forced by the reckoning point that is menopause, kind of being smacked upside by the kind of trauma that I've pushed down, to actually face things and deal with them. So I think, as much as I have always been very, what's the right word? Like, aware of lifestyle factors. The one big one that I have never, ever been honest or aware of is that stress and, the mental, emotional kind of maintenance kind of thing. When I asked about your daughters, what I was going to ask was, when you talk to them about menopause, what do you, like, if you were to say, you've given them the kind of advice about how to support themselves, what do you talk about being the benefits? Like, what is the good news from the other side?
Okay. Well, I think the good news is aging well. I think that's the good news. The good news is that, as long as we've looked after ourselves, we can age well and have a very vibrant, post-menopause and aging, good quality of life. And I did a whole post on, the positives of the menopause. And it was all about kind of being able to just, let me think about that.
Is it something?
Yeah, it's, there are positives. And for me, it was learning a new skill, finding a new community, engaging with, going on Instagram was learning a new skill. Becoming a yoga teacher, and then finding this whole community of menopausal women on there, becoming, almost like, I hate to say this, role model, but being the voice of experience for younger women and telling them that there is life as we age. And
this is why I ask, because I don't ever want this podcast to be only about the challenging things or the symptoms or how to treat them. It's like, I've always got the Adele song, that Hello from the Other Side. It's like, tell me something from the other side of this messy middle that makes it kind of worthwhile or something to look forward to. And I think a lot of the time when I ask that question, it's a deeper connection to yourself, but also the wisdom that years of living, like, you can only get this depth of wisdom and power and knowledge and magic from years in.
And I think that's true. And I think I know myself well enough to know when something is good for me and when something is not. Yes. So I know when to pursue something and when not to. It's opened up. Being menopausal and because I'm on this menopause journey, with my yoga, it has opened up so many avenues that I never knew even existed.
Very cool.
So it's opened up a whole different world of experiences that I didn't see coming.
Yeah.
Just because I am talking about it. And because I'm talking about it, people like you get in touch with me.
Yeah.
Other people want me to write articles, or other people want me to do a yoga class for their charity. And because I'm talking about it, that it's allowing me all these opportunities that I had no idea. Yeah. So it does open up. And I hope for my children, I've been a good role model in showing them that as you age, you can start a new career, if you want to call this,
of course,
me, as being a yoga teacher. So we don't just have to, sit in a rocking chair, like I said earlier, and rock away until the day we die. You can learn new skills. You can do something different. You can go in a totally different direction. And find a totally different community that is supportive, that you learn from, that I enjoy, every day. I'm mainly on Instagram, going onto my Instagram, because to me, it's my community. What are they up to today? And I read their posts,
cool, isn't it?
Comment, because it's not, here's my post and I hope people like it. To me, I'm engaging with people. And, it is virtual. I feel I know these people now. I know what they do every day. And I know how they think.
I love the fact that, you can say a lot about social media in the negative, but I love the fact that I'm exposed to different ways of life, different places, and different viewpoints that I would not have ever been exposed to when we were talking about this before we started recording, before I was on social media. And I think you make a good point. It's that we are having these conversations that then invites the connection with other people that are kind of not necessarily even on the same journey, but in that same kind of phase of life where we're trying to kind of figure out what's next or whatever. And there's such magic in that it's like, I live in a little country town. I literally wouldn't be exposed to the majority of the people online in my normal life.
Exactly.
So I think there's a great joy to be had in that.
The other thing I tell my children is also about when we go through the perimenopause, it's an opportunity to reevaluate. I think we talked about this, your health, and it helps you, you take a step back and you say, well, what's not working for me anymore? And what do I need? And I think that's important at our, as we go through the perimenopause, to evaluate our health.
Definitely.
So I think the one message I want to send to my daughters is that it can be a very vibrant and energetic time in life. And I'm hoping that I'm showing that. I really do hope that through the fact that I'm doing it and living it, that they can see that.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, no doubt. That's what I see when I see you online.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
I see. I'm just so inspired. Like I think being the child of an older parent has always made me much more connected or engaged to people that are older than me anyway. But online, and particularly women who are older than me, I have always seen women, and especially like you're saying, like going and doing something completely different at 55, or going and learning something. Like I've got a friend of a friend who went and did a philosophy degree just because she was interested, and that was what ignited some spark in her. And I have always looked at people like that, and I'm just like, I just want to sit at your feet and soak it all in, because like I said before, it's the time in life that gives us this level of, wisdom and perspective.
Yeah. And you know what else happens? I'm 61. And what happens as we age is, this is going to sound kind of morbid, but you realize your time is limited.
Yep.
Okay, it is. Let's just face it. And I'm thinking, how do I want to spend that time? I want to spend it by living to the fullest.
Yes.
So I'm trying to cram in as much as I can. Of enjoyment as I can, in whatever form that comes in.
Good.
And at the moment, I'm quite enjoying my community on Instagram and creating posts and trying to, give support and encouragement to other women who are feeling like it's all over for them because now they're old and they, whatever.
It's not
like,
over.
no, it's not. Yeah.
It's just beginning. That's what I feel like. I've actually got that as my wallpaper
on my
beginning. Computer. Yeah. This is just the beginning. It's like, yes, some days do feel challenging, but this is just the beginning of a whole new phase of life. And who knows what's around the corner.
Exactly.
And what a beautiful thing. So where can our gorgeous listeners find your gorgeous self online? Because I know people are going to want to go and find you on Instagram and your website. So do you want to give, and we'll put all these in the show notes as well.
Surely. Well, on Instagram, I'm LibbyStevenson.wellbeing. And I've actually pinned the post that says the benefits, 7
positives of
menopause, I think. So it's there. But I'm mainly on Instagram and I engage with that community. And then I do have a website, Libby Stevenson. Wellbeing.com.
That's it.
And if anyone is thinking about, well, how can the yoga help me, just get in touch, either DM me on Instagram or through the website. I do have a way you can just book a chat, and
love it.
We can take it from there. So
lovely to connect. This is such a perfect, I'm going on holidays tomorrow. So this is a perfect underscore to a little half week for me on a Wednesday evening.
Wonderful. And thank you so much for having me. I'm very passionate about helping other women. I think it's pretty obvious from everything that I've said. And if just one woman listening to this is like, I'm going to take up yoga. Yeah, that would be great.
Or even just take an extra breath between stimulus and response, or any of the things you've talked about, like amazing.
And we don't have time for that now, but yoga is so many things. It's not just movement. Yes. It can just be stillness. It can just be breathing. It can just be meditation. So try them all out and find what works for you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been so cool to finally be able to speak to you. So, and I think we went back and forth with our time zones a little bit, but we got there in the end. My silly booking software. Thank you so much, Libby, for being on the show.
Thank you, Kylie. I loved it. Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening into today's episode. If you love the show, as I hope you do, please take the time to subscribe on your favorite pod listening platform and rate and review. And for bonus points, if you have a friend or someone who popped to mind as you were listening to this episode, why not hit the share link wherever you're listening and send them a little love bomb. Like, listen to this. Did you know this is normal? I really, really, really would love to get these beautiful stories into the hearts and ears and minds of so many more midlife mavens. And your help spreading the love is truly, truly appreciated. Thank you so much. I'm Kylie Patchett, your host, and have a spectacular day.